This is every movie parody episode in Family Guy, and we're gonna go in release order, starting with the show's beer-centric spin on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in Wasted Talent. So for the first time in history, Pawtucket Pat plans to open the doors to his brewery for a select few.
Pawtucket Pat has placed 4 silver scrolls and 4 random beers.
So whoever finds the scrolls will earn their golden ticket to the brewery. Geez, think about the liver damage this little stunt will cause.
Oh, Lois, thank God it's you. The last 3 houses I went to were very rude.
Have you been drinking?
Now, Lois, you know that's a question you could ask him in any place at any time of the day, and the answer is most likely to be a resounding yes. But despite the mountains upon mountains of bottles, Peter doesn't find a scroll.
The final scroll has been recovered. The lucky recipient has declined to be interviewed for safety reasons.
Yeah, forget the lottery, this is a prize worth killing for. But not long after, that whole report is revealed to have been a lie.
I made it up. I figured if people thought the last scroll was found, everyone would stop looking.
Well, in that case, let's get back to our regularly scheduled alcoholism.
I bet that scroll makes the beer taste terrible. Oh God.
But in his little pile of vomit, Peter finds exactly what he's been looking for.
He found it!
Oh my God!
Run home, Peter. Run as fast as you can.
And for the love of God, wash your hands! This is pretty much the same scene out of the movie, though Charlie actually knows how to run. Is this the birthplace of Family Guy jokes that go on forever? It just might be. And so all the winners line up outside, including Peter, Joe, and a ninja?
My wife Janie gives me a beer and bam, there it was. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. You know you can't sneak up on me like that.
And finally, the man of the hour, Pawtucket Pat, makes his grand arrival for the onlookers. But good God, man, beer can't be that serious. And so the tour begins, but Joe hits a bit of a snag in his wheels.
Where's the wheelchair ramp?
Oh, we don't have one. I guess this is where you get off.
This is when we meet Pat's Chumbawambas, but not those Chumbawambas. Like Oompa Loompas, they're here to do all the labor while singing you an ableist song or two.
Chumbawamba, gobble-dee-dee, when your poor legs are stiff as a tree.
So with Joe being the first guest removed, the tour continues with another riff on a classic song from the movie.
Take a drink and you'll sink.
That's all well and good, but what are Charlie and his grandpa doing here? I'm not sure what the drinking age is in Quahog, but there's no way it's 10 years old.
We're still working some of the bugs out of our latest invention, Permasuds. Beer that never goes flat.
It may be off limits, but nothing is off limits for a man who can't read the keep out sign.
This beer will still be carbonated long after you die of old age and we buy another dog.
I don't know why you said it wasn't ready. It tastes pretty good to me.
Whoa!
Much like the fizzy lifting drink from the movie, Peter and Brian begin to ascend upwards, which is all fun and games until they see the giant fan they're floating towards.
Oh, this is it, pal. We're goners.
But also like the movie, they manage to descend by letting out some gas. But because this is Peter, it comes out the bottom rather than the top.
Silent but life-saving.
What the hell is this?
That would be a man and his dog farting all over your beer, sir. So Peter and Brian get kicked out, but Pat at least gives them the dignity of a Chumbawamba song.
Chumbawamba,
The episode goes on, but this is pretty much where the parody ends. If this is anything like the movie, I guess either a child or a ninja will inherit the brewery. Not sure which is the better option, but I'd take either of those options over sharing a home with ghosts, which is the situation the Griffins find themselves in during the episode Petergeist, which parodied the 1982 horror movie Poltergeist. So while digging around in the backyard, Peter stumbles across something pretty creepy.
I'd put that back if I were you. You may be disturbing a sacred burial site.
Oh, sacred burial site, schmacred burial site. No human remains are safe from Peter's gags.
Shuck. Hey, cut it out.
But typically the spirit world doesn't take too kindly to you using their bodies for prop comedy, so they reach out to the Griffin's youngest.
I don't know. Oh, you didn't see it? Ross and Rachel got back together. It wasn't that great.
Nothing weird here. Kids are always talking about the Friends finale to an imaginary friend.
Stewie, what are you doing?
They're here.
Pretty much a one-for-one of the scene from the movie, except this ancient spirit is really interested in the show Friends.
No, they did a spin-off. He's still playing Joey, but is not doing so well.
And so spooky shenanigans begin happening all over the house, like furniture getting put where it shouldn't be.
I must have accidentally stacked all those things upside down and then just forgot about it.
Might be time to lay off those middle-of-the-day glasses of wine, Lois. But things get even weirder when Stewie gets sucked into a ghost dimension, and Chris gets grabbed by a giant tree monster. But luckily, Herbert was already standing outside.
You shall not
Different movie, but A for effort, I guess. Unable to find Stewie, they hear him calling out from the TV. This is scary and all, but at least he still finds time to do his best Phil Collins impression.
No stranger to you and me.
So after a little seance, they discover the door to exit the spirit world is somewhere they won't be happy about. Well, at least one of them won't be happy.
The exit is your daughter's bum.
Meg's ass!
So Lois decides to rope up and brave the ghost dimension, eventually finding Stewie and exiting through Meg's rear.
Oh, thank God you guys are... Ew, you're covered in slime.
And that wasn't even from the ghost dimension. Meg should really get her bowels examined. But I guess she should have plugged herself up because ghosts begin to swarm the house, causing the family to flee.
If we can only save 2, we leave Meg.
I know, but
You bastard! How could you leave me in there?
Look, I'd be trying to stay far away from any butt-farting out ghosts too. So the family drives away as their house suddenly disappears. Can't pay mortgage on a house that doesn't exist, at least. But they end up returning the skull to its burial place anyway, which restores their house.
what the hell?
So this was a semi-accurate parody of a Steven Spielberg classic that reminds us of the dangers of digging up your backyard. You might dig up a ghost, or worse, a pipeline that bursts and kills everyone, or a cool treasure chest. On second thought, maybe the risk is actually worth the reward. But the reward for altering the past isn't usually a great one, a lesson Peter learns when he goes to the past to fix his marriage and meet the Quagmires, which contains a little parody of the sci-fi classic Back to the Future. So Peter's envious of never getting the chance to sleep around as a teen, and when Death pops by, he convinces him to take him to the past so he can give it a try. Not sure how this power helps Death do his job, but hey, who's complaining?
Let's go. But just for one night.
So they return to 1984, and the first thing Peter does is blow Lois off.
Lois, we got the rest of our lives for me to not hear a word you just said, but tonight I got plans with Cleveland.
Yeah, he's got bigger plans than creating a loving and fulfilling future for himself, like making out with another woman at a bar.
Molly Ringwald?
Yeah, how's it going?
The Molly Ringwald? From The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles? Never mind, Peter may have just hit the 1980s jackpot. Yet when he returns to the present, Peter doesn't seem as happy about finding her in his bed.
We've been married for 20 years. What's wrong with you?
Not only that, but Lois is married to Quagmire. Not gonna lie, Lois Quagmire has a nice ring to it.
Come here, baby. Let's go play schoolgirl and guy who has sex with schoolgirl.
So Brian explains to Peter what happened, not unlike how Doc Brown does with Marty McFly.
You did something that changed the course of your history, causing the timeline to skew off into an alternate tangent.
Yeah, who would have thought rejecting your future wife in favor of a movie star would have changed your life in any way? Doesn't take a dog with a chalkboard to figure that one out. So they convince Death to take them back to make things right, but Peter fails.
Crap. Death!
And fails.
Death!
And fails.
Oh, crap. Death!
No! You know what? I'm not doing it again. Screw this!
So with no magical talking skeleton to help, Peter will have to save his relationship with passion and emotion and feelings. Yuck.
I've already got plans.
What do you mean plans?
I'm going to the country club dance with Glenn.
So Peter and Brian decide to crash the dance just like in the movie, though with significantly less making out with your teenage mom. Probably for the best.
You had your chance with me and you blew it. Now leave us alone.
Both Peter's future literally vanishing from existence, he resorts to something from the movie that does work. Punching your ops lights out.
Hey, Quagmire!
Huh?
And it's that act of territorial caveman passion that makes Lois fall in love with Peter all over again, restoring Peter's timeline and family. To celebrate, Brian takes a page out of the movie and plays a song that doesn't exist yet.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down.
But the world was not ready for the power of the Rickroll.
But your kids are gonna love it.
So while not a direct parody, it's no surprise the Family Guy pulled inspiration from possibly the greatest time travel movie ever made. I do feel like they missed out on the opportunity to joke about Marty making out with his mom though. Like that was weird even back then, right? But if we're talking the best sci-fi movies of all time, there's none bigger than the original Star Wars, which Family Guy did a full-on recreation of in the episode Blue Harvest. So a while ago in a solar system kinda down the road, a spaceship carrying a princess is attacked by an evil empire led by the nefarious Darth Vader.
Princess Leia, are you prepared to tell me what you've done with the stolen Death Star plans?
I mean, you could probably just kick the little guy over. He looks far too top-heavy to stand back up on his own. What he doesn't know is that Leia sent 2 droids entrusted with the plans to a nearby desert planet who were coincidentally bought by a young man named Luke.
There's something stuck in this R2 unit.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Is this like opening someone else's mail? That's a hefty fine a guy living in a hole in the desert probably can't afford. But Luke recognizes the name and takes the droids to Old Man Kenobi, who I'm guessing lives out in the desert because of a court order rather than by choice.
So I'll assume we can count on your help to get the Death Star plans to my father on Alderaan.
So Luke joins Obi-Wan on his journey to learn the ways of the Jedi and the Force. But they'll need a spacecraft.
Well, what do you think?
What a piece of junk!
Thank you. This was my brother's. He died of leukemia.
Yeah, and Luke's Guardians just burned to death in the desert. Life is cold in space. Better get used to it. Anyway, they board the ship of Han Solo and Chewbacca and lightspeed jump just out of the Empire's grasp.
What the hell? Oh my god, we came out of hyperspace into an asteroid field!
Yeah, that asteroid field is actually the remains of their destination, Alderaan, destroyed by the Empire's Death Star. God, don't you hate it when Google Maps doesn't update when a location doesn't exist anymore?
It's a space station.
Crap, they got us in a tractor beam!
So the ship gets captured, but the gang pulls the old switcheroo to disguise themselves. Those stormtrooper suits, sure are stretchy.
I'm gonna go knock out that tractor beam.
And we'll go rescue the princess.
Somehow, this elderly liability makes it all the way around the place without getting caught, shutting off the tractor beam before coming face to face with his arch nemesis. And I don't mean an offender registry website.
What part of stay 50 yards away at all times don't you understand?
But before they can have an epic, heart-stopping, no-holds-barred fight like they did in the original, Vader makes him disappear with a single hit.
No!
There's nothing more sacred than the bond between a boy and the creepy old man he met a day ago. So our heroes manage to escape to a rebel base where they use the Death Star plans to formulate an attack on the craft.
Red 5 standing by.
Red button standing by. Red Fox standing by. Big Red standing by.
And with a little luck and some space magic, Luke makes the impossible shot and destroys the Death Star. They end up building another one in like a few years, but we'll count this as a victory nonetheless.
You did it!
Yay!
Hooray, I have your sandwich!
This is one of the few times Family Guy went all in on a parody, adapting it to the best of their ability while poking fun at the pop culture juggernaut we all know and love, except for like half of the movies. It won't be the last time they tackle this franchise, as you'll see later on, as the show continues to get bigger and better and stands firm in not giving Meg a notable role in any of them. But Family Guy would also parody classic comedies like Home Alone when the Griffins go on vacation and accidentally leave Stewie behind and Baby not on board. So the Griffins load up the car at the crack of dawn to take a road trip to the Grand Canyon. And Peter doesn't travel anywhere without his iconic tropical bird collection.
Peter, you are not putting those birds in a car.
Oh, well then, I guess we're not going on vacation.
And on that note, Stewie returns to bed, but Lois lets Peter bring the birds. I mean, how could you not after all the crazy times they had together?
What's with all those birds?
My tropical bird collection, just in case.
Oh, that was the only clip we had. But how did the family not notice Stewie wasn't there?
Brian, do me a favor and check on Stewie, would you?
He's fine.
Actually, this may be the least surprising thing to ever happen. But back at home, Stewie's reveling in his alone time as he's free to do whatever he wants.
Ooh, Hustler magazine. I finally get to see what a vagina looks. Oh god!
And during a stop in New York, the family finally realizes they're one football-headed baby short.
Oh my god. Peter, Stewie's not in the car. Oh my god, we must have left him at home.
If this were a normal baby, he probably would have drowned in a puddle by now. I'm sure he's fine.
Well, actually, we could call Quagmire in Cleveland. They can go over and check on Stewie.
Well, they're no wet bandits, but Stewie still treats them as intruders.
You think he's here?
Wow, that was pretty easy. Maybe Kevin should have tried that instead of toy cars and paint cans. So the family decides to drive back to Rhode Island, but Peter gets a little sidetracked when he sees a car with a TV in it.
I mean, do you have any idea?
With teleportation skills like that, who even needs a car? The Griffins try to take a train, but Peter shockingly screws that up as well.
There was a guy inside selling shower curtain rings, so I bought a bunch of those.
Peter, that was the last of our cash.
Not so sure the toddler of the family was left home. I think he's standing right in front of you, Lois. But she rightfully lays into him, which sparks an impassioned monologue from Peter.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target.
Which is just a verbatim recreation of John Candy's speech in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Come on, one movie parody at a time, guys.
Guys, I found us a ride to Quahog in the back of a truck. Hurry!
Which is exactly how Kevin's parents make it home in Home Alone, courtesy of John Candy. Oh, that last reference makes a little more sense now. And as Stewie runs out of food and diapers, he realizes just how much he relies on his family.
My life was considerably better with my family around, and I didn't realize it until it was too late.
But luckily, he doesn't have to poop in Meg's hats anymore because the family makes it back home and everyone's reunited. This is definitely one of the looser movie parodies, following more of the concept rather than the actual plot, which is a shame. I would have liked to see Stewie torture a few home invaders. Speaking of which, whatever happened to Quagmire in Cleveland?
Welcome to the DirecTV Help Channel, your destination for getting started with your new DirecTV system.
But if you want real terror, look no further than the master of horror Stephen King, who had 3 of his stories parodied by Family Guy in the season 7 episode, 3 Kings. So we start with Stand By Me, the story of 4 boys journeying across town to see a dead body, which was apparently a popular hobby before the internet came about.
Lord almighty, I done seen me a dead body down by the lake.
But the road is a long and dangerous one, involving passing through an old man's junkyard.
Chopper, sick him, boy!
And narrowly avoiding getting run over by a train.
My legs!
Sorry, Joe, we couldn't keep you walking for too long. It just looks weird. So the boys finally reach their destination, and it's everything they'd hoped for.
He's nasty.
But their success is cut short by the local bully, who aims to take credit for finding the body.
Kiss my grits, you cheap dime store hood.
Back in the 50s, that was the hardest line you could say to someone. Oh, how far we've come. So the boys return home after an unforgettable adventure, doing what all friend groups do, splitting up and never seeing each other again.
The fat kid from Stand By Me is now married to Rebecca Romaine. Can you believe that? I swear to God.
At least one of them had a happy ending. Marrying Mystique from the X-Men sounds like a win to me. The next movie is Misery, which follows a famous children's book author killing off his most beloved characters so he can move on to other projects. And this is the only time I'll ever refer to Brian as a famous author.
Yeah, but I want to get into writing more serious stuff. You know, something where the reader doesn't have a load in his pants while he's looking at it.
If this were actually Brian, the real load would be the book itself. But while driving through the snow, the writer crashes his car and gets dragged to safety by a superfan.
I'm your #1 fan. I'm your #1 fan. I'm your #1 fan.
So Stewie plans to nurse his idol back to health, but after the author agrees to let him read his new book, he discovers his intentions to kill the main character.
How could you? He can't be dead! Snuggly Jeff cannot be dead!
I won't say I agree with Stewie, but killing off a character named Snuggly Jeff does feel a bit extreme, doesn't it?
You are gonna write Snuggly Jeff back to life, Mr. Man!
But Brian just can't write a satisfying conclusion for Stewie, so when he goes out to get more paper, Brian does his best to try and escape.
Mr. Sheldon?
Unfortunately, the sheriff suffers the same fate in both versions. Only this one has significantly less kneecap.
I'm gonna have to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair!
No, you're not.
And this section kinda abruptly ends after that. If anything, it should encourage you to check out the actual movie to see how it ends.
You fondled me while I was asleep?
Yeah.
I don't think I like that.
Well, it's done.
And finally, we finish off with a retelling of The Shawshank Redemption, the story of a man trying to break out of prison.
I'm getting out of here tonight, Red. I'm gonna take the poop pipe to the crap swamp.
Kinda sounds like a dirty innuendo, but he really means it. But before he goes, he tells Red to find a box of money he stored and to come meet him in a small Mexican village when he gets out.
Where is he? Where the hell is Dufresne? I don't know, sir.
But what the warden doesn't realize is that he already tunneled his way out the night before.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of foulness I can't even imagine.
And like that, Andy is a free man. A free man who most likely contracted numerous diseases in that tunnel. Sometime later, Red gets out and finds what Andy instructed him to look for, a buried box of money with a note.
You remember the name of the town in Mexico, right?
Well, I hope that wasn't your life savings, Andy. Other than the Misery one, this episode managed to stay mostly faithful to the movies and managed to create some fun scenarios with the show's cast. Not a bad tribute to one of the greatest horror writers of all time. And we return to one of the greatest sci-fi series of all time with a parody of the second Star Wars movie in Something 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 Dark Side. So years after the first story, the Empire tracks the rebel forces to a snowy planet called Hoth.
There are so many uncharted settlements, it could be a phony! A big fat phony!
Glad the phony guy's still slipping his way into episodes. I like that guy. So the Empire attacks with their robot camels, but Luke gets the smart idea to hogtie their legs to take them down. But the Empire's forces are too strong, leading our heroes to flee while Luke sets off on his own mission.
Hey, this ain't the way to the rendezvous point.
We're not meeting up with the others. We're going to the Dagobah system.
Why the sudden detour, you may ask? Because a hallucination told him to while he was injured, dehydrated, and about to freeze to death. That's the catalyst for all great journeys and also every dumb decision ever made. Let's see which one this'll turn out to be. So Luke crash lands on the swamp planet where he finally finds the person he's been looking for.
What the hell's that creepy little thing?
Well, I'm not Yoda. Okay, I'm Yoda.
This little gremlin's a master Jedi? I didn't believe it myself until I got to see all of his sick flips.
I'm ready to become a Jedi.
All right, kid. Let's do it.
So they do a bunch of working out to get Luke in top physical condition. If this is what it takes to become a Jedi, Yoda must be ripped underneath that cloak. Meanwhile, Han, Chewie, Leia, and C-3PO make their way to Cloud City to meet with Han's old buddy, Lando Calrissian.
Hey, Lando!
Hey, Han, you crazy old bastard.
They really didn't have any characters for Lando, so they had to use more. I mean, they could have tagged Cleveland Jr. in. I know he's on another show, but so was Cleveland at the time. But it's a trap.
Wonder Woman!
For his crimes against the Empire, Han is frozen in carbonite, but not before he and Leia say their heartfelt goodbyes.
I love you.
F*** off.
Aww, and they say romance is dead. Sensing a disturbance in the Force, Luke arrives at Cloud City and finally comes face to face with Vader.
So no cutting off body parts, let's make that a rule. No below the belt, if you know what I'm saying.
What a nice gentlemanly duel between the embodiments of good and evil. Luke and Vader fight all the way to the city's central air shaft, where Vader does not adhere to the rules they agreed upon.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Hey, a hand!
Okay, Vader owes Luke at least one shot to the crotch then. Luke refuses to join Vader, believing he killed his father, and you already know the line.
No, I am your father.
Sorry, but I'm gonna need a little more proof before I take your word for it. Sounds like a job for Maury.
You are not.
So Luke falls down the air shaft and uses the Force to communicate with an escaping Leia from a distance.
Leia!
Luke.
Suited up with a brand new hand, Luke is reunited with Leia and plans to find Han's whereabouts. Everything seems to be cool, ignoring the fact these two siblings also made out in this movie. Granted, the decision to make them siblings wasn't decided on until the next movie, but that just makes it worse, doesn't it? And things go from bad to worse for many longtime characters as they're picked off one by one in And Then There Were Fewer, which is a parody of Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. While the episode borrows the story's name and setup, there are actually quite a few differences between this parody and the movie. So a bunch of Quahog's residents get tricked into attending a dinner at a remote mansion hosted by actor turned supervillain James Woods.
Since I'm a man of God now, I am truly repentant. So, I invited you all here to make amends.
This is one of the biggest differences. In the movie, the host is not initially known, going by the alias UNON, which spells out unknown. Ooh, how mysterious. And instead of honoring the guests, the host accuses them of murder and looks to enact justice. But both versions feature a mysterious death early on, and in this case, it's Quagmire State Stephanie being taken out by a hidden rigged gun.
Did the court hit me?
Whereas in the movie, it's Anthony Marston dying from a cyanide-laced drink. Yeah, sure, just comfortably fall onto that chair. That's usually how people die. The party interrogates Woods about the murder, but he professes his innocence and earns himself a knife in the back.
Look!
And when the group in the movie finds that they're the only ones on the island, both parties come to the same conclusion.
The murderer is one of us.
To be fair, I think a lot of people in this room have killed someone on the show at some point. Maybe Woods should have brought them here to kill them. Some more bodies start to pile up, including Muriel Goldman.
Oh my God!
Derek Wilcox.
Dear God!
And James Woods' girlfriend Priscilla. Tom Tucker gets pinned as the murderer, and all seems right in the world until Lois goes to speak with Diane Simmons, who reveals the truth.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it was you! You're the killer!
I mean, look at that face. If anyone ever smiles at you like that, call the police immediately. In the movie, only one person remains, discovering the murderer to be Judge Quincannon, a guest on the island who faked his death earlier in the movie.
One little Indian boy left all alone. He went and hanged himself, and then there were none.
While Diane's plot was an act of revenge against James Woods and her broadcast partner Tom Tucker, Judge Quincannon did it to achieve what he calls perfect justice. But they're both psychopaths, just with a different coat of paint.
Well, now you know everything, Lois. Which, of course, means I have to kill you.
Diane tries to do away with Lois on the cliffside, but a well-placed sniper shot sends the murderer tumbling into the ocean. Guess I'll be seeing her soon.
If anybody's gonna take that down, it's gonna be me.
And in the movie, the judge believes the survivor will take extreme measures since she's the last alive and will be pinned with the crime, as he plans to poison himself since he's mortally ill.
And now my work is done.
Except these two also fake to death to trick the judge, leaving his master plan unfulfilled. Nice one, Judge. Enjoy your poison. So while the setups are the same, the execution and narratives are vastly different between this episode and the movie, though both are filled with plenty of mystery, swerves, and red herrings. And if you happen to be curious about the movie, it's actually free to watch on YouTube if you enjoy hammy black and white capers.